Have you ever been in a situation with friends or in a class where you are a leader or somebody stronger than all of you that tells you what to do, like wants to guide you and direct you? I don't know if you've experienced that. You have somebody in your class. I've experienced that personally. I'm sure there are many people who have experienced that. You are a group, okay, as boys or as girls, and there's always one that looks like a leader and tells everybody what they need to do, who they need to talk to, how they need to behave. And if you don't do things the way they want, you're going to probably be excluded from the group, because whoever is going to talk to you is going to have issues with them. Does that sound like bullying? Very interesting. I'm going to tell you something, man. I mean, I was part of the bullied people when I was a child. I wasn't a strong, imposing dude. It's very late in life when I started looking for life. That's when I sort of, matter of fact, let me remind you, I'm a professional boxer, a world kickboxing champion, former world kickboxing. Look at that. You haven't seen this. The reason why I started doing this is because of my brother. He used to bully me a lot. He will drink his glass of milk and wants to drink my glass of milk. Imagine they will fight each other and he will beat the crap out of me because he was like 3.5 years older than me. I couldn't fight him until I had to go find a boxing club. My father sent me to do boxing. He said, go do some boxing or something. Anyway, I'm going to narrate this story to you some other time.
I will fight for you, for your family, and your future with every breath in my body. God spared my life for a reason, to restore America to greatness. Together we can truly make America great again.
Donald Trump is going to hit any country that's going to buy Venezuela's oil 25% tax. So, in other words, if you buy Venezuela's oil, you're going to get 25% tax on your goods. And that's not very good for your economy. And there's many questions raised here. I think we need to talk about this. You're an African. Thank you very much for stopping by. You're an African-American, Caribbean. You're very much welcome. I think in order to know where you're going in the future, you have to look back and see where you come from. Because in most cases, responses and answers to the future lies in the past. So if you look carefully and you search, you're probably going to find the answers to the things you're looking for today. There's nothing new on earth. Thank you very much for coming by. I appreciate you. Please click on the button, subscribe, and join the group. And also, we have a private group here. Please join so you can profit from things that are more personal, one-on-one, unfiltered, things we cannot necessarily share here. Okay, let's go. So some countries are going to be hit with 25% tax from Trump if they dare to deal with Venezuela. And I'm sure a lot of people think it's unfair. I mean, why?
We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. We were taken advantage of like nobody's ever seen. And you saw what happened today with Venezuela. We did something with Venezuela, which is long in the making, and it's very substantial.
Who is he to say who must deal with who? I mean, if you live in a fair world, democratic world where everybody respects each other, then there should be a level of freedom. You cannot impose people who they should be friends with, right? So we're going to try to dive into this to understand why. Well, what is the relationship between Venezuela and the United States of America? The relationship between Venezuela and the United States of America changed. I just killed the United States of America right there. When Venezuela chose to move from whichever capitalistic system to a socialist system. Okay, capitalistic system is basically where you have a big market, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. That's the reality of it. Okay, that's the reason why you appreciate Jeff Bezos, even though he made a lot of money through COVID, while people, you know how many billionaires became multi-billionaires during COVID? You have no idea. All these companies that shot into your arm became multi-billionaires through that. And it's only later on that they admitted that, in fact, that shooting through the arm was not protecting you from anything, because the CEO himself refused to shoot through his own arm. Let's get back on track. In the meantime, many people were suffering, hidden in the house. They couldn't come out. Let's get back on track. Now, Venezuela changed its system from capitalistic system to socialist. Socialism, basically, theoretically, it's making the market for the people. You're making sure instead of one person having the big chunk of pizza that has 12 pieces, whilst there's 12 people in the room, let's share one piece for everybody. You won't have the big pizza by yourself, or let's have 10 pieces of pizza whilst there are 12 people. Let's share the 12th part of the pizza to 12 people. That's the socialist system Venezuela wanted to implement. And by doing that, they would nationalize companies. Venezuela is one of the biggest producers of oil in the world. Starting with Hugo Chavez, who was a staunch pushback of America, he even called George Bush a devil. He called America an imperialist country looking to overtake and overcome other countries, deprive other countries of their right.
The President of the United States, the gentleman to whom I refer as the devil, came here talking as if he owned the world.
Como dueño del mundo.
Truly, as the owner of the world.
Un psiquiatra no estaría de más.
I think we could call a psychiatrist to analyze yesterday's statement made by the President of the United States.
After Hugo Chavez, there was a president named Maduro who also pushed back the United States of America.
We have defeated previous sanctions, and we will defeat those to come as well, with work, creativity, love, and patriotism. They can sanction and impose tariffs on whoever they want. What they will not be able to sanction is the love and patriotism of the Venezuelan people.
What was Venezuela's goal? I'm telling you the Venezuela's account of things. I know in most cases you hear what America thinks, but not many people hear what Venezuela thinks. Now, Venezuela wanted to make Venezuelan goods available for the Venezuelan people. Make sure the Venezuelans profit from their good, from their money, from their riches, from their oil. They nationalized oil companies. And Americans were not very happy. Why? Because they had invested into oil companies in Venezuela. America pressured Venezuela. Venezuela refused to turn back. America started sponsoring opposition leaders in Venezuela, sending money to human rights company, and also accusing Venezuela of human rights abuse and negative things and all that. Was Venezuela doing negative things? Probably. Was it accentuated because America didn't need them, didn't like them? Probably. Why? Because we know some countries that do very, very bad things, and America doesn't make noise about it. Okay, let's continue. Venezuela wanted to keep Venezuelan good for the benefits of Venezuelans. Americans, being capitalistic people, wanted to invest in Venezuela, and after seeing the new fact, they couldn't invest and make money out of Venezuela anymore. Thus, the reason why they decided to sanction Venezuela. Therefore, Venezuela cannot trade with other countries, cannot do business with other countries, because if you do business with Venezuela, then you have an issue with America. So as you know, most European countries will not dare challenge America. Now, this is not the first time something like this has happened, okay? If somebody has a problem with somebody and you have accounts of this very person having issues with other people, you're probably going to go check what they did with other people so you can compare the situation and understand why Paul seemed to be having problems with people. Now, America also has issues with Cuba. This is Cuba on a map. You probably know Cuba from Fidel Castro. Cuba today is under horrific sanctions. The country is poor. Has very difficult situation, not enough goods, not enough medication, not enough of anything at all. If you look at the country, even though it looks beautiful, you can see things are very old. Look at the cars, look at the buildings. They look very old. Why? Because they've been segregated. Who segregated them? Well, the United States of America was one of the key people that pushed Cuba into segregation. Now, let's try to understand why did we get to this point? And we're trying to see into the Cuba's point of view. I know most of people hear stories on American point of view. Let's hear Cuba's point of view. Why do you need Cuba's point of view? Because, you know, when we were born, we saw movies of American going to Vietnam and fighting and going to Russia and beating the Russians. You know, all these stories, all these stories tell an account of America being a good person while Vietnam were the bad people. American being the good people while the Russians were the bad people. It's only when I grew up that I found out that actually Americans went to Vietnam uninvited to start a war. Yes, I never knew that. I thought Vietnam was a bad country doing negative things, destroying other countries. It wasn't the truth. We only learned about this as we grew up. That is why you need to see both versions of the story to pull your own conclusion. Now, I know you've heard stories coming from America's mouth. You also need to hear stories coming from the other people's mouth. Cuba does not have any relationship with America. Matter of fact, right now, America still have a military base in Cuba uninvited. So Cuba asked them to leave, but they refused to leave. But they have sanctioned Cuba since the 1960s, where the country cannot get anything and any traction at all. Now just imagine, you don't like a country, you have a piece of land in that country, you stay there by force, even though they've asked you to move and leave, you refuse to leave, but you hit them with multiple sanctions. Now let's try and understand why is this. America accuses Cuba of taking investment without compensation. They say Americans went to Cuba, they invested into the Cuban economy, and when Fidel Castro came, he took over power, and he sees goods from America without paying them back. Now let's try to find out, what is America talking about? That's obviously from an American perspective. Now, from a Cuban perspective, as some of you know or you may not know, I can't think that everybody knows, the majority of South America was colonized by the Spanish. You know, when they took people from Africa, from all over the place, they went into South America as well to colonize. They beat people up, they did negative things. And that is the main reason why most of South American countries speak Spanish. The Spanish also colonized Cuba for the longest time. But it came a time when Cubans were pushing back against the Spanish. They wanted freedom and their independence. A Cuban Revolution war against the Spanish was horrendous, horrific. Now, around about the same time, the United States of America sent a boat called the USS Maine. In 1898, the USS Maine was leaving America to Cuba. As you look at the map, Cuba is very close to America. Cuba was colonized by the Spanish. The Spanish were fighting against the Cubans that were trying to bring the revolution to Cuba. The United States of America sent USS Maine to go to Havana Harbor in Cuba with the goal of protecting American interests and American people. As the boat, which had military and ammunition, was leaving America going to Cuba, it exploded. Some people accused Spain immediately, saying Spain had put the mine in the water and the mine exploded the boat, unaliving many Americans. Well, later on, some accounts say that there was no objective proof suggesting that the USS Maine was exploded indeed by a mine by Spanish, but indeed there could be a possibility that the ammunition that were in the USS Maine exploded after being in contact with the hot coal. Obviously, you know, back in time, boats moved with coal, hot coal. They use hot coal. So they believe, some investigation, you can check that online, even on YouTube, believe that there was a possibility that the boat exploded from the hot coal going into connection with ammunition. Obviously, it goes kaboom. That is when President William McLean of the United States of America declared war against Spain. They fought against the Spanish. They dislodged the Spanish after 6 months. America took over Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Okay, so these countries were colonized by the Spanish. America took over these countries. As you understand, America takes over Cuba. Then they sign deals into America starting to influence its presence in Cuba. The United States of America got involved in many areas of Cuba. They invested in sugar, oil, telecommunication. Matter of fact, an American corporation also controlled Cuba telecommunication infrastructure before the revolution. So telecommunication of a country was controlled by another country. The American invested in tobacco, in mining, because Cuba has valuable resources such as nickel, copper, and metals. After the war, US took control of Cuba through a military occupation and was granted significant influence over the island's politics and economics. This marked the beginning of American economic dominance in Cuba. So let's think about this. Cuba was colonized by the Spanish. The Spanish were fighting the Cubans because the Cubans wanted freedom. Americans got involved when their boat got exploded. They declared war against the Spanish, then took over Cuba. In the meantime, we're forgetting the Cubans that were already fighting the Spanish to free the country. Now, American companies controlled tobacco, mining, sugar, petroleum, telecommunication, and hotels. Well, Fidel Castro came and said, you know what? Then I think something is wrong here. I mean, we pushed the Spanish so we can get freedom. Now you have pushed the Spanish for us, for you to come and replace the Spanish. We're not happy about that. We are nationalizing everything. We are taking everything back for our people. That is when the mayhem between America and Cuba started. America had a military base in Cuba. Cubans asked them to leave. They refused to leave. They said, we're going to stay by force. Up until now, America still have a military base in Cuba. Now, in the meantime, Cuba cannot trade with anybody. They're not allowed. Matter of fact, a few months ago, many countries went to the United Nations. Most of the countries said, okay, let's free Cuba. Let's allow them to leave. And only 2 countries refused. Guess which 2 countries they are? The United States of America and the country you don't name. They refuse to allow Cuba to do their own things. So let's recap here. Okay. The US is a capitalistic country. Everything is based on money. So, matter of fact, the main reason why the US and Venezuela don't get along is because Venezuela nationalized the country. In particular, the oil industry. For Venezuela, it was regaining sovereignty. For America, is you are robbing us of things we can get from your country. Then they sanctioned Venezuela. In Cuba, the Cubans were fighting Spanish that had colonized the country for the longest time, same as South America. As the Cubans were fighting Spanish, Americans saw that as an opportunity. This is what Cubans think. For them, the opportunity was, let's kick out the Spanish so we can take over. Well, the Cubans say, well, this is not the reason why we were kicking out the Spanish. We asked them to leave so we can take over our own countries. We did not do that so that you can come and take over. That wasn't the purpose. Then they got into a situation. Cuba got accused of many things. The US even sponsored a probable coup in Cuba. And today, they don't get along. So it's all about interest. Now, let's compare that with today. In 2025, for the war in Ukraine to end, Donald Trump and his group had to discuss with the Ukrainian leader, asking him to give up 50% of their resources for the war to end. 50%. So, no 50%, they kicked him out of the White House. You remember that? Because he did not agree to 50%.
We're telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want what we put up to go in terms of a guarantee. We want a guarantee. We're handing them money hand over fist. We're giving them equipment. So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things.
When he said, okay, I'm going to give 50%, now they're, okay, we're going to give you back intelligence service, we're going to give you back ammunition, we're going to give you back your things.
As a result of that, and I think as a result of this positive step forward, the president has decided to lift the pause on aid and on our security assistance to Ukraine going forward. And that's effective immediately.
So can we say that the U.S. is only moved by its own interest, financial interest, and it's not the United States of America? We're talking here the big companies. The big companies are owned by individuals. This is not about the country. This is about individuals making money, as opposed to Cuba and Venezuela that want actually to make money for the people. Now, let's think about something. Why is South Africa in the beef for the United States of America? Well, South Africa is one of the countries that still deal with Venezuela in terms of mining, petroleum, and energy. Is South Africa becoming a target because it looks like it's doing things that America doesn't want them to do? Like sending the country you don't name to court, like dealing with Russia. They were accused of sending ammunition to Russia, even though everybody tried to put Russia in a corner. Is America pushing against South Africa? Because South Africa doesn't show much enthusiasm into America capitalism. There's a lot to say, fellas, but let's stop here for now. Let me know how you feel about this. 25% on any country that will deal with Venezuela right now. That's what Donald Trump said. Let me just remind you here, he did the same with Canada, same with Mexico, so same with China. So now it's the pressure. Does this mean we're going to do the things the way we want you to do, or you're going to pay the price for it? If this is the truth, can we say that we live in a world that is free? Let me know how you feel about this. God bless.